We've only done this like 11 times, so like what could go wrong?
We know what we're doing.
We're professionals now.
Yeah.
So, to everyone watching this, this is the... I don't know, what do we call this? Because usually it's an AMA.
I
This
think
is
it's just
switch behind the scenes.
conversation,
Yeah.
I think.
As most of you know, we are fake internet friends. We don't speak outside of actually recording ourselves on split screen, do we?
And yeah, it's sometimes difficult to pretend to like you.
Yeah. Like, I really resent having to work when it involves you. But and the fact that your like name is littered all over my Switch project is really annoying me.
Well, I care less about you, so it doesn't bother me.
Awesome. All right, cool. So now we've got that fake passive-aggressive intro out the way. Yeah, thanks for doing this, I guess. And we'll start with like how this actually came about, because this was, I don't know if you remember, this was a call that me and you had last year.
Yeah, it was a long time back. I remember that.
Yeah.
It took a while to kind of actually get together and do it.
Yeah. And it started, I mean, do you want to fill everyone in, like what we were doing, what we were talking about, and how much of that was productive, and then how this came about?
I think one of the biggest things that I like about this is, you know, we spoke about it such a long time ago, and then because we found out we were going to the summit, Santa Barbara, we were like, yep, let's just wait.
Yeah.
Let's not drive to Leeds or drive to Wales. Let's fly to Santa Barbara and do this.
Yeah.
And I remember there being a problem with not really having enough time to film it because, you know, the summit's about the business and stuff, and, you know, the company itself.
Yeah.
So we kind of made it clear that we'd just do the performances and make a trailer there. Which, well, we did that in a couple of hours because we were just showing switches basically. So that's my favourite part of it, the fact that the trailer's in Santa Barbara, but then the explanations are in the UK. That's
And for those like people that don't know, where you live is about like 5 hours drive through the UK for me to get to. So we ended up filming this, like the explanations separately, like independently, and it was kind of like, it kind of blossomed, didn't it? Like it started off as a Switch project where we'd show old Switches.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, I've got a few original ones. And you were like, well, I've got a few original ones.
Yeah.
And then we were speaking to Lloyd and he was like, I've got a few original ones. And then it just became a project. It kind of like became a thing where instead of teaching everyone else's Switches, which was the original plan, which was to go over sort of the classic Switches and give everyone the foundation of certain Switches by like people like Marlowe, etc. Then it just became something of its own where us three sort of just put our own spin on it.
And we were looking for something to do together anyway, like the three of us, and it felt perfect. And something about like the editing when the tricks were being edited together. There's a part in the trailer where it says like 15 switches.
Yeah.
And to start with, when I did that little bit, and then when I wrote it, I didn't know how many switches were involved, so I just wrote 15.
Yeah.
And then coincidentally, there were 15. And then even more coincidentally, there were 5 each. Because we didn't plan that. We just thought, here's a bunch from me, here's a bunch from you. So that was nice to see, you know.
I think it worked out, didn't it? Where like me and you were planning on a few, and then like Lloyd was planning on like 50. It's like, how many have you got to film? I'm like, I don't know, 5 to 7. And how many have you got to film? I don't know, 6 or 7. How many have you got to film, Lloyd? I don't know, 20, 22, 23.
Yeah.
So
That's funny.
I'm glad we like tapered it down to like only the best content.
Yeah. the filming was fun, like at the summit, because it was quite simple. And good thing about switches is it's just you just got to show the visual of it. And I like the idea of giving like magicians and card guys something that they can make their own, and in this case they have to make these things their own because the switches. We're not selling tricks. We're not saying here's go and do this trick. We're saying here's this switch. Now start thinking about what you can do with it. You know.
I think a lot of magic sometimes, because you'll know this, and like I know this as a performer, things will go wrong. Things will go wrong at your gigs. There'll be like someone's hands are too sweaty and a card will stick, and the one you control to the top is the wrong one, or you'll lose your break because you're nervous because you are performing to a celebrity, or you drop your cards. Like, things will occur to mess you up along the way. And one thing that I've done a few times, I don't know about you, but to get into like the browy, no, not the browy move, I forgot the move now, but you know where you do the card to mouth routine?
Oh yeah,
you do like a pinky pull down and then like convert it to a thumb break and then push forward. It's on Crash 2 for those that have seen it. But often I'll accidentally like catch a break on 2 cards. And I remember once I did like at a gig, I did card to mouth, so they're like here, and then it's in here, and then I put the wrong card in my mouth. So I'm like, I'm pointing up, and they look up and they realise that, oh, there's a card in your mouth. And then I pull it out all smugly, and I look, and it's the wrong one. So I'm like, oh, hold your hand out, and they hold their hand out, and I just quickly did a top change, and now it's a different one.
Yeah.
And that was then triple magical to them because they'd just seen it. Do you know what I mean? And it became in their hands. So sometimes, like, knowing a few switches can get you out of the tightest spots, can get you out of like the worst scenarios. Like, I've done chaos cards through a window with the wrong card before. Like, and we're talking ages ago, like when I was like 16, working in a vodka bar. Not drinking vodka, like doing magic, but
drinking in a vodka bar.
Age 16. Yeah, no, that's not a job for those of you that were thinking about going into drinking vodka bars. But I controlled the card at the top. I was 16. I wasn't in magic for very long, and the chaos card through the window. I pulled one card through the window, and I was like, "Name your card," and they're like 10 of hearts, and I'm like looking at it. It's like the Jack of Spades, and I just pulled it through the window. I'm like, oh my god. So I'm like, oh, you're 10 of hearts, and then I put it in my top pocket, and I took the deck back off them, and they were like, obviously. And I palmed off the 10 of hearts, which was the top card that were present against the window. And I just pushed that card, I like tapped it down into my pocket as I pulled this one. I was like, do you want to hold on to your 10? And it kind of like got me out of that situation again. But it was just jazzing, do you know what I mean? It was like thinking of just one way that I could save my ass. And this is what this project is. This is like things that will save you in performance, things that will add to your performance that you can build routines around. But this is going to give you like so many ideas for different ways that you can switch a card, different scenarios, different materials that you can switch with.
I mean, 15 different switches, and they're all different. Like, I was going to say no 2 are the same, but I think 2 of them are similar. Which is one that I did called Card Switch 1, is it? Yeah, Card Switch 1. And then Lloyd Barnes, I can't remember what he calls it, where you pick it up off the table. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I know, yeah.
I can't remember what he calls it, but they're very similar in appearance, but couldn't be more different in method.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from those 2, there's like 15 completely different switches, and switches that aren't, I wouldn't call any of them slight heavy. You know, they're all fairly easy and simple.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's 15 different ideas that people can take away and put into their own routines, tricks, whatever, you know. Even if it is just a simple card switch. Hey, look at this card. Do this move, and now it's changed. That's still a trick in itself, but I think there's more value in taking the idea and making it something unique or their own. I was going to say, like, with the trailer, or with the footage that was used for the trailer, it kind of opened my eyes a bit again to the fact that a lot of switches and slides in general are kind of very situational, and cameras pick up everything, whereas the human eye, sometimes things fly, and there's a few different moves in there that the camera just was all over, and I was like, oh my god, this switch is terrible. But in reality, it's not terrible, and the switches that idea applies to, it doesn't mean they're bad that the camera picks them up. Because one of mine, the one I'm talking about is one of mine, and it's like a 5 card switching for 5 cards.
Yeah.
And I did about 100 takes, not 100, that's exaggerating, but I did a ton of takes, and the camera picked up every one. But then I've shown that switch to hundreds of people, and not one time has ever been seen.
Yeah.
So there's a lesson in that I think is worth mentioning, because it's sometimes difficult to. You're not trying to fool the person buying the product in the trailer. You're trying to show them what it is.
Yeah.
But in some situations, it's difficult to kind of demonstrate a switch that's relies on blurring or moving, because the camera doesn't accept that. The camera's like, no, I'm not going to look away. I'm going to stay focused on the bad point.
That's a really good moral point, is that, like, in our business, truth is, unless someone's fooled by the trailer, then they're not buying it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like a really big moral issue for them. That's like, to us, well, how much can we really show of this full routine where it doesn't spoil it? Do you know what I mean? Where it doesn't spoil it for somebody else?
Yeah.
And that is really tough, because you want people to know, like, the nuances and the little tips and techniques behind something. But if you show them a full unedited performance, they'll work it out and they'll save themselves $10, $20, $30, and they'll go out and perform it badly or perform it wrong, and then see that as bad material. And a lot of material that I used to learn from books kind of like spawned other moves and other sleights for me, because I'd read it in a book, I didn't see how it was performed, I just took it as good material because it was written down.
Yeah.
And then I learned for myself how to do it, and then I tweaked it myself when I wanted to change it. So I don't know, yeah, that's like a huge issue in the magic industry at the moment, is that people are upset when a trailer's edited and it fools them, and then when they get whatever it is, whether it's like a gimmick, they're like, if it wasn't edited at this point, or if they'd shown a full performance, I would have worked it out. Well, no, you're wrong. Like, you're thinking as a magician, not as a spectator. And the truth is, like, a spectator will never catch a top change, but a bird's eye view camera always will.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you have to put yourself, every time you view a magic download trailer product, you have to put yourself in a spectator's shoes. Is a spectator who's engaged in your performance really going to notice? And when I palm a card, I've got like the biggest window on earth. Literally, I keep that there, and you can see that like card in my palm.
Yeah.
No one's ever caught me palming a card, ever.
That's why I love Gambler's Cup so much, because it's so dirty, like it's hanging out that much.
Yeah.
And even people like stood behind me or there, no one's ever caught me out with a cup.
And no one ever will, because it's that situation. Like,
and
people.
And it's not that I'm good with that. I'm necessarily good with copping or palming. It's just that I know that people don't look in that place. Yeah. I'm doing nothing to draw their attention in that direction, you know.
And yeah, and that's where a switch, I guess, is like, for everyone that gets it. There'll be table switches. There'll be muck-in style switches.
What's your favorite switch of your own that you put into this?
I don't know really. I've got there's two things I'm really proud of that are not necessarily switches, but I think add a lot of value to sort of my section. Yeah. My favourite switch is the one where you sort of pop it this way, and when you turn it over and you give it to a spectator in their hand, you've switched it.
One-handed.
Yeah, one-handed, and you can do it face up or face down. So it can either appear to change face up, or you can use it as like a mystery card. We'll place this on the table. So that's my favourite switch, but the thing on the project I'm most proud about is probably, I mean, I was a performer in the most difficult situations. I've done drunk people at sort of bars for years, and I did weddings. I've done every style of performance at restaurants and things, and I see people performing certain tricks like card to pocket and card to mouth. And on the Switch download, I've got a card to mouth switch, and I think the lesson that follows that switch on how to perform a card to mouth properly is probably like more valuable than all my switches on there. Because card to mouth is such a powerful routine that and I've had kids at like conventions come up to me and show me card to mouth, and then I'll give them those tips, and it'll just blow their mind. They're like, oh my god, that's made that so much easier and better for me. And then the card to pocket is kind of like you're foreshadowing the card go into the pocket, and there's like a cool little clean-up technique on there as well. So like, just in case anyone ever questions you, you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, those are the main things for me, because I know that I want people to go out and perform those at all their gigs and feel comfortable in never being caught, because all the subtleties of like that are on there are how to perform the routines that the switch goes into better than ever before. So yeah, that's what my favourite is. What about yours?
I'm not too sure. I think there's one on there called Push, which is it's kind of a development of something that people have seen from me before, but it's basically a folded up card on a table, and I guess you could use it as a prediction or some kind of they can't see what card it is, but you could say to a spectator, name any card. So they Ace of Spades, for example, and all you do is push the folded up card towards them and ask them to open it. So you push it across the table and say, I don't want to touch this, and in that motion you kind of switched it. And I liked the idea of when you fold the card up, obviously it's smaller, and smaller things are easy to switch. And specifically in this case, when you push it, like I've watched myself back on film performing it and being like, yes, proud of that one.
I've seen you.
I think that's.
I've seen you perform this with dice and with like Rubik's cubes as well.
Yeah, and I teach. This isn't in the trailer or in any kind of. I teach a lot of stuff that's not even mentioned, so there's a lot of bonus stuff in there, and I do a deck switch in this download where it's in the box. So there's a deck of cards in the box, and it's in the push explanation, and I push the box towards them, and in the same action of pushing it, you can do a full deck switch, so a full box deck of cards.
Yeah.
You could do it with a deck, but when you push a deck, it obviously falls apart.
Yeah. And that's like a metaphor for life, isn't it?
So true.
Push a loose deck, falls apart.
So true. But yeah, like that's another thing. Like the explanations, I teach a lot more than just what's on the project.
Yeah.
But I wanted to keep a lot of it more secret, so I didn't kind of publicize it or talk about it too much in the trailer or on a page copy, you know.
Yeah, and that is the same for my section and the same for like Lloyd's. Is that when explaining it became so much more, and there's so many more variants that only those that get the project will really know for real, like what you're getting. Because we're not gonna list everything because we're desperate for people to really want it. We're gonna list what the sort of main core switches that we came up with are.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a bonus for anyone that does invest in it, that they get those lessons and those extra little bonus things too.
Yeah, it's like even that, just one example of when I teach push. Yeah, I teach it with a folded card, but I teach it how to do a box switch, and pretty much any two items that can fit in your hand can be switched with this method, with this idea, with this way of thinking. If Lloyd was here, what do you think he would say was his best switch?
The lapless lapping, right?
I was probably going to say that too.
It's the thing that I'm the least convinced about, but he's been showing me this and people this for years, and he's dead set on like this being the best way to switch a card on the table without lapping it, like standing up or something.
Yeah.
I think that'll be his personal favourite. I think if we were going to guess what everyone's like favourite switch is to go perform, or the favourite, like my favourite of his that I saw in the project was either the belt one, which I thought was super clever.
That's smart, so smart.
Yeah, or the folded card on the table.
Yeah, I do love that. Like, what sold me on lapless lapping was when he's shown it to me, the first time he showed it to me, that he kind of messed up a little bit, so I saw what was going on.
Yeah.
So from that point on, I knew what was happening. But when I've watched it on film and watched him do it for other people, it's so smart. And he does it so cleanly.
A lot of it comes with like his slidini style of conviction as well, isn't it? That like if you're not looking, they won't, and it just flies so well. But yeah, like I said, he's been pushing that on me for years. I almost guarantee that if we said, Lloyd, what's your favourite on that, he'd say lapless lapping.
Should we talk about the bonus stuff? So it kind of just left for the people to buy it.
I don't think so. I think it's so reasonably priced that, and this is something as well. Like if they're hobbyists, if people are watching this and they're hobbyists, they're not sure, do I need 15 switches because I like playing with it? It'll be good for them, obviously, to get those like bonus switches and bonus lessons. Do you know what I mean? But I think I kind of like it when people message us individually and tweet us and say, "Oh my god, I love that bit that you didn't. I didn't even know it was on there. I love that bit where you taught this."
Well, then in that case, my favorite switch of mine that's on there isn't actually on there. It's bonus footage.
All right.
And and I do wish I put it in the project because it looks so good, and I love the hell out of it. But I also love the fact that it's a bit of a secret.
Are we talking about? Because I'm talking about BF. Are we talking about BF?
Maybe. I might change the name of it. Do you remember we were in San Francisco and me and Lloyd had a kind of shared idea?
Oh, yeah, no, this is in Toronto.
Oh yeah, Toronto, sorry, yeah, it was, you're right.
Okay,
that's So that's bonus, you know that bonus thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of happy that's kept quiet a bit,
I think
it's actually on the trailer. I think it is on the trailer after the credit.
I wonder whether people can guess. Yeah, like
when it gets to the Ellusionist logo comes up, everybody stops watching the video. But I put it on there afterwards, like just as a hint that it's in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's bonus stuff.
I thought you were talking about the bonus. We haven't mentioned it yet.
Not talking about that. but that's in there. Yeah, that's in there too.
Okay.
So they actually get what 7? They get 17. And when you get this, you don't just get 50. You get 17.
15 that we're mentioning. Although then I put the card to pocket bonus in.
Yes. Yeah,
so
you did.
16. Then your one's 17. Then the other guy who is a secret.
Yeah. That's bonus.
That's bonus. So, yeah, like 17, 18 switches.
And just to mention as well, the other guy was filmed as a download to be on its own, like a solo download. But because we were doing this project called Switch, and his was a Switch,
yeah,
we just thought it'd be so cool to have him as part of this as a secret kind of thing, is it?
Yeah.
So so they get bonuses too.
And it is as well. So if you buy it, make sure you find it somewhere on the project and tweet us and let us know when you're the first to I guess find out who it is and what the Switch is. But yeah, like the other thing I'd say is some people are sort of purely move monkeys, and they're going to get a lot from this, aren't they?
Yeah. I could probably list the ones that they're going to love, but I'll let them kind of figure it out.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, I guess people have to sort of wait and see. We've teased like a few switches that display sort of the style of content that's going to go on there, but not necessarily the best bits of content, because thousands of views of the same thing with the uncensored internet, we don't want to give away too much too soon.
Yeah.
So if you've enjoyed the teasers, then you're going to love this. And if you didn't enjoy the teasers, why have you just watched 30 minutes of us two talking? Or however long it is.
And the trailer's cool too. Like you'll see a hell of a lot of switches, ones that you'll want to watch back and back and back.
Yeah,
because I have.
I remember as well. Do you remember when we filmed it with Pete? It's when we filmed it
And Santa Barbara.
And it was like, especially when it came around to my one, I was told that there wasn't going to be enough light to get mine done. So I started drinking early, because obviously it's the summer and it was like a party. Yeah. So I'd sank like 4 beers, and then because you'd done all of yours quick, it was like getting to dusk, and you're like, okay, can you do yours? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess so. And yeah, thankfully I did it with enough light, and they were all sort of in one take. But I was concentrating so hard with Pete. I was like, can we do it again? Can we do it again? Was that fine? He's like, mate, it was fine. I'm like, should we do it again? Yeah. Should we do 5 more?
Yeah.
So yeah, probably not a good idea.
I think everything on the trailer, when people see it, is one take, apart from the move that I did. This 5. It's called 5-4-5. 5 cards, switch for 5 cards.
Yeah.
And then one of Lloyd's, but that's not bad against him. That's just the camera being the camera.
Yeah.
But everything else was kind of just done.
Yeah, it was.
And you were drunk during yours, so.
Which most of my spectators and anyone out there that like performs commercially for people, or even performs socially for friends and family members, most people are. And I've got away with like some ridiculous things. I've literally done a deck vanish before, where I just took the deck and I put it in my pocket and kept 1 card. I thought everyone was watching me, because I was going to do like a mystery card effect with the 2 of hearts and a Psych Force.
Yeah.
And I did this, and I like dropped the card into my hand. They went, "Oh my god!" Everyone starts like reacting, and I was like, "That was just my okay. I've got 1 card here." And they thought it was a deck vanish, and I realised years ago that I realised that it's easier to perform to practice than it is to practice to perform.
Yes.
Like,
so true.
Unless you're doing bottom deals in a gambling sort of scenario, you don't need Like, I don't know, you don't need to spend 5 years perfecting a top change. Just go out there and perform it.
Yeah, go out and do it.
To like 20 people, and you'll know what they see, what they don't, and how to fix it really quick. So hopefully that helps everyone.
Yeah.
And do you know what? In this 30 minutes, I was like, I know I'm going to down this raw organic green juice while we're having this conversation to force myself to do it, and I can't bring myself to it.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I thought this was going to be the moment where I'm on camera, so I can't puke it up. Nah.
And also, just before we kind of finish, I've never been asked so many questions about an Instagram video before, and it's not my trick, but I'm going to quickly show people what it is. This is 4 cards, and they've all got magnets inside them.
Yeah.
Right, and this is also got magnets inside it. So if this is palmed,
yeah,
and no one sees it, and these are on a table, and this hand goes over the top of them one by one, they stick to it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share because I don't care about people knowing the method, and I'm also a little bit tired of everybody asking. So anybody who's still watching, there you go.
I doubt anyone is by this point.
Yeah.
But if they are,
thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Should we tell them a secret? If you're still watching by this point, comment below with the word Mexico.
Mexico.
And we know if the comments are full of that people actually cared.
What's in Mexico?
Too many things that I shouldn't joke about.
Mexicans.
Yes. Good food.
That's still Dolan reference right there. But yeah, let's finish before we get silly.
Sweet. Cut.